It was a Sunday afternoon. The telly was on low and your nan's handbag was sitting on the arm of her chair. You weren't supposed to go in it. You knew that. But you did, didn't you? You remember the smell when you clicked open the clasp. Something between lavender and something older. Something that was just her. By the end of this video, something is going to come back to you that you have not thought about in 30 years. I promise you that. And there is one thing every nan kept in that bag that tells you everything about who she really was. I will tell you what it was before we are done. There is also one item on this list that your nan almost certainly still had the day she died. You will know exactly which one I mean the moment I say it. This is not just a video about handbags. This is a record of a generation of women who carried the whole world on their shoulders and never once complained about the weight. All of it fitted into a bag that cost about £3 from the market. This is what British nans kept in their handbags. And by the end, I think you are going to want to ring someone. Your mum probably knows exactly where that bag is right now. Mine does. She will deny it, but she absolutely does. Right then, cup of tea. Let's go. The handkerchief, not a tissue. Never a tissue. Tissues were for people who hadn't been brought up properly. A proper nan had a proper hanky. White cotton, ironed flat, folded into a perfect square and tucked either into the sleeve or wedged into the side pocket with just a corner showing. Like a little flag of war. You knew what was coming the moment she reached for it. She'd lick it, without warning, without any shame whatsoever, and then she'd come at your face like she was cleaning a very difficult window. You'd try to dodge. You never managed it. Nobody ever managed it. Not once in the history of British grandmothering. It got jam. It got tomato sauce. It got something unidentified from the park. It got whatever she had decided needed sorting before she'd let you through a door or into a photograph. That hanky had your whole childhood in it. But here is what a lot of people don't know. Those hankies were not just practical. In the 40s and 50s, a nice set of embroidered handkerchiefs was a proper gift. Good ones. With her initial on. From Woolworths, from the market, from a catalogue she'd been saving her pennies for. Some of those hankies went into handbags in 1953 and never came out again. Worn thin at the corners. The embroidery almost gone. She didn't keep it because it was useful. She kept it because someone gave it to her. And that is when this starts to get complicated, because what she carried in that bag was never just stuff. But the next one, I had genuinely forgotten about this until I started writing. And when it came back to me, I had to sit with it for a moment. The sweets. Always boiled sweets. Always. No exceptions. Werther's Originals for some. Murray Mints for others. Glacier Mints if she was feeling generous. A couple of Rennies if Sunday lunch had been a bit heavy. But there was always something in the inner pocket that crinkled when she went for it. You'd hear the rustle. Your head would turn before you had even thought about it. Like a dog that has heard a packet. She'd fish one out with 2 fingers. Hold it towards you. No big fuss. Just, here. Werther's Originals arrived in Britain in 1969. A bag cost about 15 pence in the early 70s. In today's money, that is just under £2. She probably got through 2 bags a week without a second thought. She did not think of it as a treat. She thought of it as equipment, same as the hanky, same as everything else in that bag. But here is something worth knowing. Werther's was a German company. The village of Werther was real, a small place in Westphalia. And the sweet was designed from the very beginning to taste like the homemade toffees a grandfather gave his grandson in 1903. It was built deliberately to remind you of someone who was gone. Your nan never knew that. She just knew you'd eat it. And she was right. But now we get to the thing she never offered to anyone. The thing she only touched when she thought you weren't looking. And this one is going to stay with you longest. Now. We are about halfway through, and I want you to stay with me. Because we are moving past the funny bits now. Past the hanky in the face, past the rustle of the sweet. We are getting into the part of that handbag that she never really talked about, the part that tells you who she was before she was your nan. That bit starts now. The photographs, not on a phone, not in an album on the shelf. These were the ones she carried on her person. Small, bent at the corners from years of being in there with everything else. Sometimes in a brown envelope, sometimes tucked behind a card in her purse, sometimes just loose in the side pocket. Wrapped in a bit of tissue she'd been keeping for no reason she could explain. Some you'd recognize. Your mum as a baby, eyes shut, a bit red in the face. Your granddad looking young in a way that always seemed strange, like seeing a teacher outside of school. But there was always one photograph she would not explain. You'd ask, because you were a kid, and kids ask, "Who's that, Nan?" And she'd take it back gently. No fuss, just, "Oh, that's nobody, love," or "That's a long time ago," and she'd put it away. And even at 7 years old, you'd know not to push it. Every Nan I have spoken to about this had one of those photographs. One face, one story that was never told. I will tell you what I believe that photograph was about before we are done. But first, the purse. Not a wallet, a purse. Small, stiff, brown or black or sometimes a dark red that had faded at the corners from being opened 10,000 times. Metal clasp at the top. Clicked when it opened. You can still hear that sound, can't you? She never got it out in front of you unless she meant to give you something. That generation did not talk about money. You did not ask what things cost, and they did not tell you. But if you had sat nicely, if you had eaten everything on your plate, if you had not shown her up, she'd open that clasp. And she'd make a small ceremony of finding the right coin. She'd look through them carefully. No rush whatsoever. She'd hold a couple up, consider, choose. And then she would put the right one into your palm and close your fingers over it with both hands. Like it was precious, like she was passing you something important. A 50p piece in 1978 was worth about £5.50 in today's money. She handed it to you like it mattered. Because to her, it did. And now here is the thing that stopped me cold when I found it. Research into childhood development found that children who received money in physical coin form actually felt the weight and warmth of it pressed into their hands, had a measurably different understanding of value than those who did not. Your Nan handing you that coin was not just a kind gesture. She was teaching you something, without knowing it, without a single word about it. The weight of it, the warmth from her hand to yours. There is no coin now, no clasp, no small ceremony. And I will say this plainly because I think we all know it is true. We are raising a generation that has never felt the weight of real money, never had to wait for anything, and genuinely does not understand what things cost. Your Nan knew something about that, something we have quietly walked away from and cannot seem to find our way back to. But we are not done yet, because what came next in that bag is the one thing on this entire list you cannot explain to someone who was not there. Not properly. Not ever. The lipstick. Coral pink, usually. Sometimes a deep red for best. Never a neutral. Nans did not do neutrals. It lived at the bottom of the bag, rolling around loose with a spare coin and a mint that had long since escaped its wrapper. She'd feel for it without looking. She'd do it in the car window reflection, or in the small mirror tucked into the inner pocket, or sometimes just from memory, because she had been doing it since 1961 and she did not need a mirror anymore. Then there was the perfume, evening in Paris for some, lily of the valley for others, sometimes just a small bottle from a gift set that arrived in 1974 and had been quietly topped up ever since with whatever was on offer at Boots. You could smell her coming before you saw her. Tell me in the comments what yours smelled like. I bet half of you can name it exactly. And I bet the other half just close their eyes for a second. That smell is the most powerful thing in this entire video. If you grew up with a Nan who smelled a certain way, you already know exactly what I mean, and I do not need another word. And if you don't know, there is no way on earth I can explain it. That is the honest truth of it. If you are not there, nobody alive can make you understand this. You either had it or you didn't. You know it or you don't. And if you had it, you would give anything on God's green earth to smell it one more time. Just once. Just for 1 second. But there is one more thing. Right at the bottom of that bag. And it explains everything else. The address book? Small. Battered. Written in blue biro. Every name crossed out and rewritten as people moved, as numbers changed, as people died. She carried it everywhere because she had to. There was no looking someone up. If she needed to ring her sister in Coventry, or the woman from the Tuesday Club whose husband had taken poorly, she needed that little book. She had built it over 40 or 50 years, by hand, in handwriting that got a little shakier every decade. And there were probably 30 or 40 people in there whose numbers had been crossed out for the last time. You knew what a line through a name meant in that book. She knew, you knew. Neither of you ever said anything about it. Now, that photograph, the one she would not explain. I have thought about this a great deal, and I believe I know what it usually was. It was someone who died before you were born. A sibling, often. A friend from the war. Sometimes a child. That generation lost children at a rate we cannot imagine now. Infant mortality in the 1940s and early 50s was devastating. Some women lost more than one. and they simply never spoke of it, never processed it. The government provided nothing for it. No language for the grief, no support, no place to put it. You were expected to get on with things. So they got on with things. They carried it in a photograph, in a handbag, for 60 years, and we ran around their kitchens nicking biscuits, and we had absolutely no idea. This wasn't just a handbag. This was an entire life, a whole quiet world that closed forever the day it was gone. Nobody asked us if that was all right. We just woke up one day and the bag was gone, and the person who carried it was gone, and so was everything that was inside it. All those names in biro, all that weight, all those years. So there it is, all of it. We didn't know, did we? We didn't know what was in those bags. Not really. We knew about the sweets. We knew about the hanky coming for our faces. We knew about the 50 pence, but we didn't know about the photograph. We didn't know about the names crossed out in biro. We didn't know what she had been through before any of us arrived. We thought she was just our Nan. We didn't know she was someone's daughter, someone's friend, someone's grief, someone who had outlived people she loved before we were even born. We thought she'd always be there. We thought the bag would always be on the arm of that chair. We thought the house would always smell like that. We didn't sit with her long enough. We didn't ask enough questions. We were young, we didn't know. But God, I wish we'd asked. I wish we had sat down and said, Nan, what's in there? Who are all these people? What does it all mean? We just didn't know how lucky we were. If she is still here, ring her today. Not tomorrow. Today. Ask her what is in that bag. Ask her about the photograph. Ask her who taught her to do the lipstick without a mirror. Ask her while you still can. Because one day you will want to know, and there will be nobody left to ask. That is the lot for today. I hope some of that brought a little bit of her back, even just for a moment. Tell me in the comments, what did your Nan keep in her bag that I didn't mention? Something you never quite understood as a kid? I think some of you have stories that beat everything I have just said, and I would love to read every single one. If you want more of this, I do one every few days. Subscribing just means it shows up in your feed. No pressure at all, and if someone you know would smile at this, or maybe cry a little, send it over. That is how we keep them alive. We were lucky. Most of us just didn't know it yet.